an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I would like to show you several cards, but also some card bases and layers. I did another post about card bases and layers quite a few years ago, and I thought it was time to update it. Most of our cards are really based on 1/4 of a piece of paper. So you can cut and then fold a piece of cardstock or paper this way. In fact, when I was working as a teacher, we used to make a lot of cards just this very way, with a piece of paper folded in fourths. You can also cut it this way and fold it this way. So I have a diagram helping you think about that. And here's a card that's based on this, and it opens and closes this way, like that one. This is the same cutting plan, the same cardstock, but I've got the fold on the top. Here's a card that's cut the long way, like this, and it's going with the fold on the left side. I couldn't spot one easily, but you can also do it with a fold at the top. So if we've got cardstock that's 8.5 by 11, we can cut it at 5.5 with a score at 4.25, or we can cut it at 4.25 and score at 5.5. So we can open our card this way or this way, or we can open our card this way or this way and have lots of variations. Or maybe you spotted that I added an extra crease. Half of 4.25 is 2 1/8, so we can score at 2 1/8 as well as 4.25. Add our layer just attached to this part, and we have a Z fold. It works this way as well. Or we can fold it this way, fold it in and attach to this and have an easel card. And you can do the same thing with the long way. This is 5.5. Half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. Fold it this way for the Z fold. Or fold it this way for the easel card. So there are lots of possibilities. Here's a card with the Z fold card. And of course, this layer can be a skinny band that goes all the way across. It can be any size. And then you can also do a gate fold. And remember, half of that was 5.5. Half of that was 2 3/4. So you can score at 2 3/4 on both sides and have a gatefold card. Here's a gatefold card. I left just a little bit of a gap and went this way. A popular size for making layers are to cut the 8.5 at 4.25, the 11 at 5.5, and then cut the 5.5 at 2 3/4. And if you do that, you'll have 8 layers this size. And those are really great for layering. This is 1/4 of a piece of cardstock, cut down 1/4 of an inch, so it's 5.25 by 4. You can cut that down another 1/4 of an inch. And then you can have a second layer, and you can keep doing that over and over and over again until you've got teeny tiny layers. And you can skip a size, so this piece is actually cut off 1 inch each way, and you can layer that, and it looks very proportional. This is especially good if you're using a designer series paper, or maybe you've embossed this layer and you want to show that off. And of course you can cut these down until this layer is really tiny. I probably should have used colors with more contrast for this for you, but I think you can see what I mean. I have a chart. The lines probably don't show up on the camera, but getting all the way down, just cutting 1/4 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch, all the way to 2 1/4 by 1. You can do the same thing with those layers that were 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, the 1/8 of a piece of cardstock. And cutting 1/4 of an inch off of that is 4 by 2 1/2. So these are really common card bases with 5 1/4 by 4 and a white layer, or very vanilla, that's 5 by 3 3/4, and or the 1/8 of a sheet that is 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, or 4 by 2 1/2. I use these sizes a lot. One way you can get these layers really easily is to take this cutting plan and take a sheet or two of your cardstock in all the colors that you own, take them down to the copy store and have them all cut at the same time. It just is a few dollars to have it cut. I think it's well worth the money. Let me show you how this works. Basically, you can cut it at 5 1/2 and score it at 4 1/4, and that gives you a card base. Cut this in half at 4 1/4 and cut the 5 1/2 down to 2 3/4, and that gives you 2 of those layers. And then you have, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so we're just going to cut 1/4 of an inch off and 1/4 of an inch off this way. And this is all the scrap that you have, and you have a card base, a large layer, and 2 smaller layers. The same plan with the long way. Cut it in half the long way, 4 1/4. Score it at 5 1/2. And you have a card base. Cut this in half at 5 1/2. And again at 2 3/4. And then cut 1/4 of an inch off of this layer to be 4 by 5 1/4. Again, this is all the scrap you have. Hardly anything. So then you have lots of opportunities for lots of layers. And lots of arrangements. I can do the same kind of thing with the Whisper White. I do use Whisper White for card bases, but usually I use it for layers. So I will go ahead and cut my layers into 5 by 3 3/4. So that gives me 2 layers. It also gives me this scrap that's perfect for labels. This piece I would usually cut down to 5 and 2 1/2 and 4 and you could actually cut that 1/2 inch off if you wanted to start out with. And so when I'm going to make layers, this is what I'd usually do most of my stamping on. This one or this layer. So a common theme seems to be, where do you store your scraps? I really don't have scraps anymore. I toss these. These are really too small to worry about. Everything else is cut down to my basic card bases and layers, and I store all those card bases and layers in these pouches, and it's a resource and a place to store them, so I can just grab these and make a card and be ready to go. If you would like my explanation of card bases and layers and my cutting plans, this is the cutting plans for the Very Vanilla and Whisper White, and sometimes other very light colors. Come on over to bevadams.com. I'll have the direct link right here on the video. And also, if you're watching YouTube, you can look down in the description below. I hope this helps keep you organized. More organization means more time for crafting. Talk to you soon. Bye.